Love that song. You are the light, you are the light, you are the light. And today, our practitioners get to share their light with you. Today, we have a very special service. It is Practitioner Sunday. And our religious science practitioners, Connie Moore, Patty Cooper, and Kim D'Amato, will be doing our talk today. But before I introduce them, I would like to give you an overview of what it takes to become a Centers for Spiritual Living practitioner. A Centers for Spiritual Living licensed spiritual practitioner is a person of high spiritual consciousness and deep understanding of the spiritual nature of life. A deep and personal relationship with the divine is prominent. The licensed spiritual practitioner is trained in the study of science of mind and in the art, science, and skill of spiritual mind treatment, also known as affirmative prayer. Licensed spiritual practitioners are dedicated to the cause of helping others and sacred service. Licensed to practice professionally, and they are bound by a high code of ethics to provide a safe and confidential space for all their clients. To become a Centers for Spiritual Living licensed spiritual practitioner, a person must complete four-year required course of study, which is like 6 classes ahead in the beginning, and then practitioner training for them was a full 2 years, and that has changed. And I will tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. So they have completed a 4-year required course of study, pass a comprehensive background check and a written exam, and be approved by an oral panel consisting of ministers and practitioners. Their licenses are renewed every other year after the approval of the required continuing education credits and the service hours within a Centers for Spiritual Living affiliated community. So now that, I was going to get back to that now, that has changed. The education has changed. You are required to have 6 classes, and now anyone can take the Practitioner 1 course, and then for those that choose to go on for Prac 2 can become a practitioner. So, in saying this, I would like to now introduce the extraordinary practitioners we have here at Ahava. And I know each of them have gone above and beyond their call of duty. So I'm going to start with Connie Moore. Connie Moore was in our first graduating class of practitioners. So religious science practitioner Connie Moore has attended Ahava since the second service in 2009 and became a licensed practitioner in 2013. She has served as a regular volunteer at God's Food Pantry before COVID, saw clients for practitioner sessions, also known as spiritual guidance and support, and also served as director of practitioners in 2022. She has managed our media and website for many years and has taught financial freedom classes regularly here at Ahava. Connie is available for personal one-on-one coaching, personal prayer, guided meditations, house blessings, animal blessings, business blessings, and memorial services. And practitioner Patty Cooper started attending Ahava in the fall of 2009, and in 2015, she became a licensed practitioner. Patty coordinated volunteers for God's Pantry and served as the director of practitioners in 2021. She facilitates a monthly grief support group, which is online, the first Saturday of the month, and she just finished taking a Centers for Spiritual Living sponsored course on grief circle training. So the grief support is Patty's thing, so she's done an exceptionally good job at that. And she's available for one-on-one coaching, personal prayer, hospital visits, house and pet blessings, memorials, and other ceremonies. And our most recent practitioner, Kim D'Amato, became a licensed practitioner in 2019. She is a songwriter who has been singing and playing music here at Ahava since 2011, excuse me. Kim's passion for aligning with spirit and the infinite flow of life shines through her music ministry and her prayer work. Kim is available for prayer and meditation services. And next I'm going to talk about Louise Talon. So not with us today is practitioner Louise Talon. Louise Talon has been a licensed Center for Spiritual Living Practitioners since 2006. She was the director of practitioners here at Ahava for the first 10 years and started the One Can at a Time program. So that is how our food pantry got started. So as you go to the grocery, if you buy just one extra can, put it in our food pantry, that helps our community and the community at large. Louise teaches workshops and courses for practitioners to deepen their skills. She facilitates practitioner retreats and teaches online certified courses for Centers for Spiritual Living. Louise has been coaching individuals and couples for 17 years. She is currently enrolled in a 120-hour mind-body coaching certification program through the Embody Lab, and that is why she cannot be with us today. So Louise offers a free 20-minute consultation for prospective clients to explore the possibilities of working together. And for myself, I became a practitioner in 2015. I was actually in the class with Patty. And after I became a practitioner, I started our annual holiday support program and became the leader of our pastoral care team. 3 years later, I began ministerial school with one of the requirements to enter ministerial school was that you have to be a practitioner first. So now as a minister, I oversee our lovely practitioners. So I am available for personal prayer, meditation, visioning, house blessings, animal blessings, weddings, and pastoral care services. So without any further ado, I would love to introduce our first practitioner, Patty Cooper.
Thank you, Cynthia. Oh, this is a good level for me.
It's kind of tall. That's why I always wear heels.
But actually, it feels great.
Oh,
Some of you may know that the theme for this week is Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And when I first read that, I just kind of felt giddy. I reminded myself of like being a kid and it's a summer night and everybody's out in the backyard lying in the grass looking up at the stars. So that just kind of filled me with joy. At the same time, I had a reservation. Would the twinkling stars be presented in the foreground? The stars of the week, while the night sky was relegated to the backdrop. I needn't have worried about that. I wondered whether the idea of contrast between the stars and the dark night could slip into binary either or thinking, something Reverend Rainbow cautioned us about in a recent talk. Binary thinking, sometimes called dichotomous thinking or either or thinking, but you get the picture, permits only two options, which are often framed as opposites that are ranked against each other according to their value or worth. So good and bad, but more than that, light and dark, clean and dirty, perfect or flawed, men or women, white or black, Reverend Rainbow showed us deftly how these cultural associations of light with good and dark with bad, white with safe, black with danger, have sustained and maintained our racist social structures and mentalities. This autopilot mental shortcut isn't necessarily something that we humans consciously choose. It permeates our culture. It's in the air we breathe. And as we have seen, it can be dangerous. It can be life-threatening. Alternately, demystifying and embracing the dark, as Reverend Rainbow also helped us see. This embracing of the dark reveals to us its treasures, as the reading demonstrated today. And I love this quote by Julia Cameron, who wrote the book The Artist's Way, who said, "Creativity, like life itself, begins in the darkness." So, when we pause and think about this either-or thinking, Reverend Rainbow suggested that we think in terms of both and, which is broader. When we pause and notice that there are usually more than two choices, the horizon changes. Subtleties, blurred boundaries, in-between spaces, interconnections, now all come into focus. Moreover, using the starry night analogy again, we can recognize partnership, connection, and collaboration between the dark sky and the twinkling lights together. Where once we saw separation and opposition, either or, we can now envisage one great, magnificent, breathtaking wholeness with a capital W. And not just for the stars and the night sky, but for everything. We ourselves embody both and. We call it our wholeness, and it holds everything, even the parts that we're tempted to criticize or hide away. This perspective uncovers spaces where things blend, connect, collaborate. Experiencing life this way, we can observe and feel the presence of relationship, of connection to everything that is, and know the power, capital P, power, of holding it all together at the same time in oneness. An advantage of this on the personal level could be that we get encouraged, I guess, to see ourselves in new ways. For example, when I got my first job, teaching college in Philadelphia, I didn't realize it, but I had a belief that said, if I wasn't a fabulous teacher, I was a failure. Only 2 categories. And that continued for a while. I made myself miserable. And I missed out on seeing all the richness and potential in the space between these opposites. I was reminded of while doing this, of the Brene Brown book that we did a book study on here, The Gifts of Imperfection. The gift is that if we all value ourselves and refuse to hide our messy and glorious humanness, we can be more authentic with and more connected to each other. Both and thinking invites us to notice nuance, to release judgments, underline, express more love for ourselves and for each other. Embrace a willingness to grow. The more mentally flexible and nimble we can be, the more we can let creativity just rip out there and do its thing. And think about the link between that and our theme this year, living out loud. Both and observation asks us to be willing to shake things up, to allow doubt and experience expectation, curiosity. It suggests a much more inclusive angle of vision. Is this easy? An overnight realization? Something that evolved people do 24/7? No. Expanding our awareness, seeing connections and collaborations all around us, that's a lifelong deal. A journey of discovery about life itself and our place in it. So on reflection, it seems that those little twinkling stars in tandem with the dark night sky offer us much to ponder. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. That was wonderful. So before I get into this, I want to point out that we didn't collaborate we just had a topic, we didn't collaborate. So there may be some overlap in our messages, but my message is certainly not going to be a repeat of Patty's. I've gone a little different direction. Before I get started, I invite you to look around the room and just notice the shadows that fill this space. And if you need a good example, our logo is on the wall back here. It's white letters on a light gray background, and you see it well because there are shadows that define it. So light and shadow have a lot of meaning for us. They're nouns and verbs and adjectives, both words are. Light is brightness. Light is the thing that produces the brightness. We turn off the lights when we leave a space. We turn on the lights when we walk into a room. It is also the act of illuminating. You light up a place. And it is also the quality of brightness. The light comes into this room and the room becomes light. So shadow can mean darkness itself, or the act of following as in you shadow someone when you are training or when you are surveilling. It can also mean to protect or hide. You can shadow someone and protect them from something. But what it is for the purpose of this talk is what it is physically, which is the darkness that is created when light hits an opaque object. I'm creating a shadow right now in the space behind me. We're all creating shadows right now because light is shining on us. Light does what it does, and shadows are created. So they are integral to each other. Light doesn't need shadow the same way shadow needs light, though. We humans, we need shadow. If you've ever driven east when the sun is coming up into the sunlight or west when the sun is setting, you know that you need shadow to see the distinctions in the world around us. Our eyes are designed specifically to see waves of illumination, not all of them, but we need shadow to define our world. We live in a realm where opacity exists, and shadows enable us to navigate our surroundings. We need contrast to see in this world. So I have some visual aids that I've brought with me today. Sheet of white paper. We think of it as being light. We would describe this as white or light. So pardon I have allergies. So we don't know what is, we assume that this piece of paper is blank, that there's nothing there. But if you add contrast, you will see that there is. So the same way that there are stars in the sky right now shining just as brightly as they are tonight, we don't see them because the light is too bright. In the same way, we think that this dark black paper, this sheet of black paper, is also blank. We don't see what is contained here because there is no contrast. Until we give it contrast and we see that there is actually something there. Who here is, I know Karen Riggins, I'm going to point you out because you may be familiar with the term chiaroscuro. It is, in art, it is the play of light and darkness to create drama, interest. I have two examples of work that artists famous for using this technique used. One is Da Vinci's The Lady with an Ermine, and you'll notice that this piece of artwork is largely dark. It has a very dark background to it, and yet Da Vinci has used light to direct our attention from her face to her shoulder to the head of the ermine to her hand. And this is very clear and very distinct to us. Rembrandt was also known for using chiaroscuro. And also we have a lot of dark and a lot of light in this image. But our eyes are drawn to his cheek and his neck and his shoulder. This painting is known as The Artist as a Young Man. It is also known as The Artist with Disheveled Hair. So, and that's the truth. So when you see this, you notice he has facial features. We recognize there's something there, but there's no contrast. So his facial features are not distinct and not easily seen. So another way that contrast is important to us, this white piece of paper, this is our reading from today. This is the way we've learned. This is the way we've shared information throughout history. The very characters that we created to communicate with each other depend on this dynamic of light and dark playing with each other. So it is who we are. Shadows bring the world and all of its experiences into focus for us. That's the point. We know light because we know shadow. We know shadow because we know light. We know pain because we know joy. We know joy because we know pain. So for all the things that light and dark are, and this is something I love to talk about, so I could go on, but some examples of things I won't talk about are how we can't touch them. We can't touch light and we can't touch shadow. Shadows move faster than light. Shadows are not bound by size. We would be equally blind in absolute light and absolute dark. And we really don't see light. We see by light. So what's true about light and shadow in the physical world is true about light and shadow in the spiritual world. Because what we know is what's true one place is true every place. The play between light and dark is what guides us through this world physically and spiritually. We were made for this journey. The universe that we have our being in right now was created for us to fit perfectly in it, and we do. Except that you are art created by the creator of all there is. And make it your own. If you need help with that, if you have difficulty seeing yourself as a master creation, then I know who you need to talk to. You need to talk to a practitioner. You need to talk to someone who knows the absolute truth of you. Someone who will stand in that light when you have a hard time doing it. So there are some quotes that I particularly like that to me really speak the truth of light and dark in our lives. But before I share them with you, there is one other aspect of light that I would like for you to think about, and this is something that particularly fascinates me. And I am grateful every day that I wake up in a light that was created almost 14 billion years ago. And when I center myself in that thought, I know I'm connected with all there is. So Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Everything we see is a shadow cast by that which we do not see." Ram Dass said, "The shadow is the greatest teacher for how to come to the light." And Mary Oliver, one of my favorite poets, wrote, "Someone I loved once gave me a box full of darkness. It took me years to understand that this too was a gift." So I invite Kim up. Thank you.
My place is of the sun, and this place is of the dark, and I do not feel the romance. I do not catch the spark. Does anybody know that song? Yeah, it's been in my heart this week. That's called Prince of Darkness by the Indigo Girls. And I don't know, have you ever been there? I've been there. And actually, let's see, about a week ago, exactly at this time, I was kind of there. And so I wanted to tell you about that today, because decided for some reason, this was last Sunday morning, that I normally write in the morning. I get up, and that's the first thing I do before I even talk to my husband, John, before I talk to anybody, for his sake and for everybody's sake. I just write it out, and kind of explore whatever's bothering me. But for some reason, last Sunday, I decided to start with my phone. And I decided to start the day scrolling through Facebook and taking in the pictures of families and flowers and smiling dogs and cats and lots of horses. Does anybody else have lots of horses on their feed? Because I do. Love them. And also, of course, the political commentaries and the bickering of my Facebook friends and the tragedies, so many tragedies, and personal tragedies and tragedies that reverberate around the whole world. And I checked my email at that moment with news about mass shootings and trials in the news. And it left me, for some reason, feeling more disturbed and upset than normal last Sunday. And I was just in a dark place. So instead, I did my writing after that experience, and I went into that and explored, why am I so bothered by this? And that writing practice to me is my way of processing anything, all the stuff that's come along, usually the day before. And but in that case, that very morning, just a few minutes before, and I can see into the shadows that are coming up for me and see the light and sort my way through it. I call it a brain dump. And I got the idea, I'd always written in a diary as a kid, but I got the idea of doing this every morning from Julia Cameron, who you were talking about earlier, and she calls it morning pages. So in this case, I usually type it. It's a little easier on my hands. And I do that every morning, and it's my most important spiritual practice. It keeps me sane. And I realized on my journey as a practitioner that I have got to let that stuff out. I've just got to let it out. So if I try to bottle stuff up inside, it will come up anyway, and I'll regret that. And so I've learned that's been a very good lesson. But last Sunday, writing was not enough, and Spirit gave me that message loud and clear as I was finishing up my morning pages, and I heard, I heard this message that said, "You need a walk. You need a walk in the woods," and that's not unusual for me. And I said, "Okay, I have some things to do, but I'm going to go walk in the woods." And I told my husband John, God said I needed a walk, and off I went. So we have a few trails in our back area where our woods are, but they're not quite as private. So we got neighbors on either side. So I drove up the road. There's a place about 5 miles away, and it's a really beautiful 1/4-mile loop. And it goes through this beautiful forest area, just big trees. And it's a very relaxing place, and it's very quiet. I hardly see anybody there. So anyway, I was planning on going, I thought, oh, this will be nice. I'm going to do a nice walking meditation, forest bath. Be really nice. But instead, it was like this ragey power stomp through the woods. And and all this stuff came out. And there was all this resistance inside me of what was kind of in my face. And, I deal with some of it at work and some of it right here in my own home doing this. And so all this stuff was coming up about it. And also this yearning for peace. And a lot came out. Tears, anger, snot. And it took me about 4 times around this 1/4-mile trail before I felt sane. But it helped. And by the end of it, I could hear myself saying, everyone is trying to be right instead of love. And that's what I was so mad about. And then my mind went all Katie Byron on me. Have you heard of Katie Byron? Or perhaps you've heard of Byron Katie. Well, I have her Audible book, and she calls herself Katie, so hopefully that's okay. But I think she is an amazing, I call her a light worker, because she helps people find the light within the shadows. And she has this 4-part process that has become another really important spiritual practice for me, that it helps me forgive, it helps me move beyond the things in life that are painful. And one of those 4 steps that I think is probably one of my most important steps for me is turn it around. In this case, your thought about what's happening. And once you've identified your thoughts, you turn your thoughts around, since, as we know, we are reflections of each other. And this makes sense to me. So what is in my consciousness shows up in the world. So when I thought everyone is trying to be right and they're yelling at each other and they're judging everyone around them and making stupid, snide, petty comments on Facebook, instead of trying to be love, my mind turned it around and my heart showed me the truth. I'm trying to be right instead of trying to be love. Oh, okay. I can't push this river. I mean, I can't make everything right, and I can't make everybody do what I think is right. And I can only do my own work to love what is. And I can only know that love is who I really am, no matter what, even when I'm feeling ragey. So thank you, Byron Katie. Thank you, Brain Dump. Thank you, Writing Myself Through the Dark. Thank you, Forest Bath. Thank you, Rage Stomp, Exercise, Movement, Walking, Meditation. Thank you, Big Trees. These are all things that help me move from the shadows into the light. And these are all invaluable tools I've learned to lean on in my journey as a practitioner and just as a human being. I invite you this week to just reflect on this. Do you have tools? What spiritual practices have you found? What works for you to find light in the shadows? And there is one more spiritual practice that I wanted to talk about. And it's so powerful and so important that we do it every Sunday, and that is affirmative prayer. Affirmative prayer is a specific style of prayer developed by our founder, Ernest Holmes. This form of prayer focuses on what you want instead of what you don't want, treating it as if it's already done. This came from, I took this really nice, concise definition from the Columbia Centers for Spiritual Living website, by the way. It says, because we are cultivating faith in what we wish to know more fully, we speak as if it were already so. Affirmative prayer is not about asking, beseeching, begging, or otherwise placing a request that might be answered. Affirmative prayer is a process by which we remind ourselves of what we know to be true and further convince ourselves to cultivate even greater faith in that knowing. We are about to go into prayer, a type of affirmative prayer called spiritual mind treatment. Ernest Holmes said that thought which is built upon a realization, which is a realization of what we know to be true, has the power to neutralize negative thought, to erase it. Just as light has the power to overcome darkness, not by combating the darkness, but by being exactly what it is, light. Treatment, or spiritual mind treatment, is for the purpose of inducing interior awareness, an inner realization in the mind of the practitioner, the person praying, pertaining to the spiritual perfection of the person being prayed for. In this case, y'all, this beautiful community. So I'd like to invite Connie and Patty to come back up once again. And I invite everybody to just settle in with me as I begin this prayer and just breathe into this space within, knowing that Spirit is right here, right now. that one source, that one force of nature, that one universal everything that I know as perfect love, as light, and as abundance. And as this is the truth of the one, this is the truth as me, and this is the truth as each and every beloved person here. This is the truth of every heart within our community. This is the truth of each person within earshot. And breathing into that knowingness, breathing into that truth, I know that love is infinite. It is infinite and unconditional, overflowing through and as each and every person, moving through us as we speak, as we act, as we dance, as we breathe, with each step we take in the world, no matter what. Knowing that there is nowhere that love does not flow, that it is an ocean of love pouring through and pouring forth as each of us. I know that it vibrates with every atom, every cell, every tissue, every organ, every part of us. Every thought, every action, every deed speaks love, is love. And breathing into that truth, I pass this prayer to Connie.
So knowing that there is only love, knowing that there is only love in this space, there is only love beyond this space, that is all there is. It breathes our breath. It beats our hearts. It is alive and well in every interaction that we have, every face that we see. It is all there is. There is no place that it is not. As we open our eyes, we realize that love is all we see. As we open our hearts, we realize that love is all there is. There is no lack of love. There is no absence of love. Love is everywhere. Love is everything. Every smile, every gaze, every wish, every dream is Spirit loving us, Spirit living love. That is what we are. We are Spirit's love in human form. Here to interact, here to feel it, here to be it. I accept it wholly and completely. And in that acceptance, I pass this prayer to Patty.
And I know, too, that each person here, each person hearing my voice is divine abundance. This is Spirit's givingness. There is always enough. The good is constantly there, flowing through us, showing up as us. There's abundance in the shades between light and dark, between any former opposite. There's abundance in connection, collaboration, oneness, wholeness. Abundance is everywhere, and we stand and move and have our being in it every day. And so I return the prayer to Karen.
So resting in this truth, steeping in this truth, this love, this pure, infinite light, this abundance. I'm so grateful to be able to speak this word. And I simply know as I release it to the law that what I seek is seeking me. And I release it to the law and let it be, saying, and so it is.